So is this a mic?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I don't have to speak very loud then. Thank you. So thank you so much, Marginla, and all the members of the center, Ishinobu Center, and to all of you for giving me this really opportunity to share some of the thoughts and experiences that I had as a monk. And really it is a kind of honor for me and a privilege to be able to exchange some of my thoughts with all of you. And I think that I wanted to open up this a little bit. Now it looks like the environment looks like a little bit too serious. So I want all of you to be a little bit friendly and so smiling. I think the serious part of business is over. Mandala offering and all these things was not necessary, but just a part of traditions you did, and it's okay, so it's over. So for the next, today and tomorrow, I was thinking that if we could make it more of a kind of discussions with all of you, and I will share some things that I think I know, and if you all can contribute, so without hesitations, anything, then I think that will be wonderful conversations that we have. I think the time has come for everyone now, even spiritual leaders, political leaders, teachers, that the conversations become two-way learning, not just mono-directions, what we call. So this is my initial intention, so please participate in the discussions. And as our discussion goes, while it was going, if you have any questions or anything comes up in your mind, please let me know immediately. So I think that we were happy to listen to your response. No need to wait till everything is over. Sometimes when you have a doubt in the mind, and when it comes, and if you hold it for a long time, it is something like you want to go to the bathroom and you're holding it for 1 hour. So that nervousness or that will to express your questions will harm you from listening further. So just let me know openly without any hesitation. I will be so happy to see. So today, I think it's a very important day for Tibetan traditions, because this whole year, the 2019, is supposed to be a year of celebration of the 600th anniversary of passing away of Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Tsongkhapa, whose full name is Lama Tsongkhapa Lobsang Thapa. And in Tibetan traditions, we usually refer to as Gyurmey. So this happens to be the whole year, a special year celebrations, his anniversary, and a special moment for all the people to remember his great works, not just his life stories, but his contribution towards humanity in general, and Tibetan people in particular, his contribution towards Tibetan's culture, Tibetan's literatures, and also his service in terms of literature towards the preservations of Lord Buddha's texts, very important and the most difficult texts. And another important service that he did was, what do you call it, to edit or to perfect if there is any mistakes that have been in earlier translations, so to correct those openly. So sometimes if you look at the history, nowadays of course we have this habit, if you are wrong, so we will correct it immediately, the constructive criticisms. What I meant is, so Gyurmey was one of those scholars who really studied in depth whatever the text that has been written before him, the commentary texts towards the Lord Buddha's many works, and whatever mistakes that he found or he feels, he openly criticized in a very constructive way. So this is a kind of, in our way of learning, we consider this very important steps or very important way to preserve the teachings, because if a mistake happens and if no one corrected it, so people will keep on thinking that is the reality. So the whole thing will go after it. So that was a very important. These are just few things. So I'm here. Actually, my whole trip this time, I'm supposed to represent the Saraje Monastery University, where I'm from, in New York. In New York, we have one center of Saraje, Saraje Buddhist Cultural Center. It was set up many years before, mainly to preserve the Tibetans' culture and religions and language within the Tibetan community in New York, and of course the other interested Buddhist people and secular ethics and so on. And this year we have a conference on Lama Tsongkhapa's life story, and a conference based on compassion and wisdom for 2-day events, where Thubten Jimbala, His Holiness interpreters for many years, and Robert Thurman, so one of the great professors on Tibetan studies, is also attending, apart from many scholars. So I'm supposed to represent that. And I usually do not like long flights. So from Bangalore to New York is very long flight. And I always have a feeling that if I could stop in Europe for some time, and I think that that will be good rest for me, to spend 1 or 2 days in some part of Europe and then continue my journey back to New York. Then my sister, who lives in Switzerland, she told me, oh, that's so nice, come to Swiss, and so that you can spend some time with us in Swiss, and when you are rested, you can continue your journey back to New York. So I thought that was a good idea. Then I have a word with Zarina and Gun, and then they suggested that first you can stop in Sweden for some days, and then I can go from here to Switzerland and then to New York. So it all happened without any preparations, and I never thought that I will be asked to speak here in the center. And if I have known before, I would have done some preparations. I would have done some homeworks. So today I'm here as a student without who has never done any preparation for the exam, and I'm giving my exam in front of you. So that is the reality. So actually I'm very happy to be here. So going back to the main topic, so this whole year is very important for us for the celebration of Lama Tsongkhapa. So I wanted to start our programs with all of us together meditating for 1 minute. So in this 1 minute, we will all meditate about the 4 immeasurable thoughts. So 4 immeasurable thoughts are maybe we don't need to think about all 4, but meditating on loving kindness for 1 moment. And the Tibetan, for discovering Buddhism students, you all know, as soon as we wake up in the morning as a Buddhist practice, we wish that may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of their happiness, and may all sentient beings never have any sufferings, and they never have any causes of sufferings. So may all they have joys and the causes of their joys. So for 1 minute, so we will all really from the deep of our heart, we wish that, really pray. And it's not just an empty prayer or empty words, but a kind of a, what should I say, a pledge or a commitment, depending on one's own potential, as far as we can do, to be of some service for the whole sentient beings, or as much as possible to everyone. So please, we will all sit together and meditate for with these thoughts about the generating compassion and loving kindness towards all people for a moment. Please join me. Thank you. So I think, was that a kind of a little bit relaxed for you now? So everybody has a long day today, I'm sure. So let's be more relaxed. So now at the initial part, I wanted to talk about a little bit about Lama Tsongkhapa's life story. And actually, I'm very good in storytelling. I used to tell my friends that I'm only good in storytellings because the habit that I had is when I'm young. So in India, at in early 1990s, we do not have much electricity. So whether it's good or bad, that helps me to know a lot of stories to please my friends, especially the young kids in our schools. So what we do is on our holidays usually, so at the daytime we play a lot of games and do all those things. But when it gets dark, so we go to the terrace floor, bring our cushions and mattress, and we just lie down on the terrace floor looking at the stars and counting the stars sometimes, counting the stars and looking at planes. At that time, that if you are able to catch a plane going in the night sky, it's considered as a lot of achievement. Oh, I saw a plane today. And maybe tomorrow when we go to the school, we will tell our friends, oh, yesterday night we saw this plane going that way. So it was a kind of really, I mean, in our times, in our school, it's a kind of really very happy feeling, a kind of, we consider that. So we will do sometimes that one. And but sometimes we do not have that opportunity because it's cloudy. The sky is cloudy, so we even do not have that luxury to do sometimes. So we end up doing storytellings. So each one will take turn to tell some stories, and sometimes we tell very horror stories. Actually, it's all fake stories. Horror stories about ghosts and so on to frighten, and everybody will go to the toilet together. After that, because some of the horror stories were really frightening, because we only heard a little bit. In India, we call it put more masala, means to add some more and make it sound more horrific or more funny. So that's what we do as a storyteller. So then my friends used to tell me, please tell stories, stories, story. So I used to remember a lot of stories, reading from comics or listening to my teachers, and sometimes stories of Lord Buddha's life stories. We have these Chadaka tales, where we got to learn a lot about how Lord Buddha's previous lives stories also, and the stories during Lord Buddha's lives. So you have to tell every time the same story, or different, people get bored. So we memorize a lot of new stories, and I think I can remember at that time around 100 stories, small, some large ones. So then when I start to learn reading English, around when I in 6th or 7th standard, I think we have a lot of time, right? We can talk some rubbish, is okay, right? Please don't think that I'm going away from my topic. I haven't prepared anything, so whatever comes to my mind, let me speak. So when I started to learn English, first time, I loved one of my class teachers who really teach English. He says, you should read novels. And if you read a lot of novels, then your English will improve. And at that time, we have the local newspaper, the Times of India. We cannot buy those newspapers at that time. And in our school, only the school will buy the newspaper for the school kind of a library or the main office, and which is only a luxury that the teachers can read. We won't be able to read those newspapers. So, but I always look for newspaper pieces to read the stories. But then one of my teachers says, if you can read novels. So I started reading these sometimes romantic novels, like Sidney Sheldon's and other things. Then I read so many different kind of novels at that time. So then later, I was struck by Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes, detective, and Doctor, all his what should I say, his characters, Then a few years back, I even watched that movie, that where they make a movie based on Sherlock, but the movie was not at all any fun compared to the novels. So I used to save money and also ask my friends, and I bought the whole series of Sherlock Holmes. And I read many times, and the way he do the, what should I say, detective, his intelligence, I find it so interesting. So then I tell my friends these whole Sherlock Holmes stories, because it helps me, because it is a very long story. It can go few days, so I do not run out of stories. So Sherlock Holmes was very helpful to me, and I really regard him as one of my teachers to learning English and my storytelling habit. So, so this is just not the real point. So, so Lama Tsongkhapa, when I first started to read about Lama Tsongkhapa, of course, when I become a monk and when we joined the monastery, we study his texts. And his texts are really very difficult texts, but we only study his texts, but we never care about who he is. And I have never read his biographies for almost, I think I read it just 6-7 years before. So, but I've been studying his text for last 20 years, but I really do not care who he is till now. So that was, I think, one of the biggest mistakes that I made. So then the reason why I read his life story was not out of faith or out of something, but it was a part of our exam for the Laramba exam. So I have to know his biographies, otherwise I will fail it. So that compelled me to read his biography and life story. And so I started reading. And so when you read from the beginning itself, so it's so inspiring. How as a child he worked hard, and his contribution towards the teachings of the Buddha, teachings of the Lord Buddha, and also especially in Tibet, it was so inspiring. So I'm hoping that if you can get time, please. So Thubten Jimbala, and they are producing, they are publishing, I think it's already published, and it will be available in November. Maybe it's already available on Amazon, this wonderful life story of Lama Tsongkhapa's life. I won't be able to go very detailed, but if I tell only a, so as a young kid, Lama Tsongkhapa was born in the eastern part of Tibet, and as a Buddhist, we believe that he is manifestation of Manjushri and so on, but that part is not so interesting sometimes, you know. We do not want every great scholars to be manifestations of Buddha. That doesn't really, personally, I feel that may be true, but I feel more inspiring if he is a common man like us, then he study hard, and then he becomes such a great person, and he wrote such great and commentaries. That's more inspiring, like this life story of Milarepa. So he was ordained at a very young age, around 3. Then after that, he left his home for studies. And as a young age, he was very intelligent. He was different from other kids of his age. He was very intelligent. And his memorization skill, we were discussing with Martin and his family yesterday over the dinner about the memorization topic. So Lama Tsongkhapa's memorization skill was something unique. He's really able to memorize very quickly. And when we read his life story, there was a short story where they did a competition with two other scholars, kind of scholastic students who are said to be very good in memorization skills. And they were all given a very uncommon text that they never seen before, completely strange text of few pages. And they started when the sun shines, and they were given a few hours. And when they stopped, and then they give a test about how was their memorizations. And not even half, but Lama Tsongkhapa was able to complete the memorizations. Not only he completes, but precisions, with perfections about each words, each lines, and from whichever you asked him, he's able to do that. So in that way, he was very good in memorizations. So I think that became a very important step for him to pursue and to become brilliant in his studies. That is one of his life story. Then he really And another qualities that I've seen in the life of Lama Tsongkhapa is that, for example, I myself in Tibetan traditions, when we study any text, we usually rely upon one of our teachers. So as we do in schools, so we rely on teachers. But in our monastic system, sometimes we have a saying that if you have too many teachers, it will be difficult. So sometimes we rely on just one teacher to teach us everything. So though the other teacher may be very qualified and he or she may be very good in teaching, sometimes we get a little bit hesitant because he's not my teacher. I do not consider him as my teacher. So you have that biased approach towards teachers. You are not looking at the qualifications, but you are looking at your own relationship between you and the teacher. So that's why from whom you receive teachings, if there is a biased approach from yourself, that actually blocks a lot of flow of wisdoms and intellectuals towards you. I mean, you lose a lot of opportunity to learn new things. So in terms of Lama Tsongkhapa, he went to every teacher that he could find during his times. Whenever he heard that there is some Lama giving a teaching, he just go and listen to it. So this is one particular qualities in Lama Tsongkhapa that I found myself, which is really amazing. So that shows that he do not have any kind of self-centered attitudes, ego, or feeling that you may be something better than that. So when you have egoistic or biased approach, so then you're not able to receive the full teachings. So that's why one of the qualities to be a real good disciple and a student is to have a impartial approach, not a biased approach. So that was the one quality that Lord Buddha himself has mentioned. And this is completely present in Lama Tsongkhapa as a young children, as a young scholar, as a young student. So that's what he did. So that gives him a lot of opportunity to look at so many different sources and scripture that are present in Tibet at that time. He was able to read everything that is present in Sajya traditions. He was able to read everything that is in Kagyu traditions, in Nyingma traditions, and even whatever books that were available in Tibet at that time, those were translated into Tibetan. And he went far. He also get an intention. He's not satisfied with all those things which were present at that time. So he even wanted to go to India and learn Sanskrit. And he wanted to really study the the Buddhism, the real Buddhist sutras and texts in Sanskrit, the original versions. He thought that there may be a lot of literatures left in there which were not translated into Tibet. So he made up his mind, and he already left for his journey. And on the way, when he was near the border, one of the masters stopped him and said that if you go to India, there is a chances that you can create masters, but due to the climate and due to the long, a larger part of your life will be lost there. So though you may gain more wisdoms and knowledge, but your activities may not be that beneficial to the coming years. Your contribution may not be that valuable in Tibet. So then that changed his mind. So Lama Tsongkhapa changed his mind, and he felt that, okay, so I will study whatever available in Tibetan translations, and he went back and continued his studies. So this just tells us that we shouldn't be, contented with small amount of studies. So for example, what kind of studies or practice, anything that you do, for example, about Martin's great visions of secular ethics, I think that we shouldn't be contented with what we have. We have to always keep on exploring, finding more ways, going more deep into, do more research. So Lama Tsongkhapa's life story teaches us about that. To look at every possible windows that are opened, never close your ears and eyes, and so listen to whoever your guidance, and you make your own decisions. So we in Tibetan, we have of course, this is saying coming from Mahatma Gandhi, that I keep all my windows open, all my doors open, and let the wind come in. But I also make sure that I'm not blown away by the winds. So this is important teaching coming from Mahatma Gandhi. And in our debate, when we do debate in our monastery, we also say that you can listen to every people's their own way of explanations, but you need to have your own positions. You need to have your own standpoint. Otherwise, you will get carried away by everything. You may end up saying, "Oh, he says that," the other scholar says that. Right? You think means I don't know. So that means it doesn't really benefit you. So, but Lama Tsongkhapa's tell us about this important point, another point. And the next thing is so this is all about his scholastic life story. Then later, when Lama Tsongkhapa wished to study about emptiness and the interdependent natures of the phenomena, which is really going very depth into the practice. So that he understood everything. He also reached a level, Lama Tsongkhapa himself, I would like to say that he also developed a little bit of ego at a certain point of, and he felt that now he understands everything. Because when he was around 25 years old, he wrote a text called Common Prashna Paramita. And actually it's Abhisamaya Alamkaras, one of the most difficult text commentary. It's a 2-volume book, around 200 or 300 pages that we study still now. If you look at that book now, and if a scholar really do some research based on it, it's really a very scholastic product. Even he has spent a tremendous amount of time and research and understanding about establishing even a small lines. For just that book, he has read 21 different commentaries that are available at that time in India. He went through all these 21 different commentaries and around dozen of commentaries available in Tibet. He verified all those commentaries. He even checked the authenticity of those commentaries. And he came up with the result that and some of those commentaries were not authentic. He even criticized those commentaries in this text. So this, he was able to look at his scholastic book when he was around 29 years old. So an ordinary other scholar will be really feeling pride. What I have done, whenever nowadays, if you really wrote a good book, and if you sold millions of copies, and if your book comes on the New York Times or something, Times Magazine or bestseller of this, blah, 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 you will be on cloud 9, right? Of course, we will be filled with pride. Oh, I did this, And Lama Tsongkhapa, that didn't happen to him. When he was around 41 or 42 years old, so he felt that really he have studied enough. He felt that now this is the moment that I should start teaching more to others. He thought that I've reached that stage where I've really completed my knowledge. So then his understanding of emptiness, of course, emptiness is such a difficult topic. I hope to touch a little bit tomorrow when we have time. So his understanding of emptiness at that time, he felt that was the ultimate understanding. So then he had a vision of Manjushri. So that may sound a little crazy, but just for the moment, believe that Manjushri, it is possible to have a Manjushri's vision. So Lama Tsongkhapa, when he had the vision of Manjushri is said to be the god of wisdom, so Buddha of wisdom. So Lama Tsongkhapa asked Manjushri with great pride. Oh, great pride he asked. So after so much understanding, still he's left so far. Then Manjushri, sometimes we feel that if you have a visions of deities or some Buddhas, we feel that, oh, you may get some special powers or you may get some blessings and that you will achieve everything. Many people believe that. I hope in Western you don't believe, but in Tibetan traditions, we all believe that. Many people, when they see Dalai Lama and His Holiness, we believe, please bless me. And you just feel that through the blessing, everything can be achieved without your hard work. So when Lama Tsongkhapa asked Manjushri, how can I do that? Manjushri though he is a Buddha, great Buddha of wisdom, Manjushri didn't tell Lama Tsongkhapa any shortcuts. Neither he asked for blessings, nor Manjushri did give any blessings. Manjushri instead asked him to study more. Manjushri pointed out a few texts. There is this text on emptiness written by Chandakriti, one of the great masters of India in Nalanda University. And there is this text written by Nagarjuna, Fundamental Wisdom, and Entering the Middle Way Philosophy, these two texts. And there is another text called 400 Verses written by another scholars, all about emptiness. So you have to study this with more depth, with more studies, then you will realize emptiness. That is the advice and the guidance that is given by the Manjushri. So when we look at this guidance, it's so inspiring. It shows us that everything that we want to know or we want to achieve in life, we have to work for it. There is nothing that we can expect someone else to just give you. So unless we make our own effort, there's nothing we are going to achieve it. So this can apply in our day-to-day life. If we want to be happy, we have to find our own ways how to be happy. If we really want to be a contented person, so we have to practice the qualities or the benefits of being contentment, benefits of practicing compassion, benefits of being patient. So this really summarizes another important lesson for us, that which is also said by Buddha himself, that you are your own protectors. You are your own teachers. There is no teacher or guidance from outside. And that there is no power or any kind of shortcut methods that can be transferred. Nowadays, money can be transferred from different account to account, but realizations and experiences cannot be transferred. If that is the case, then why do we need schools? Why do we need teachers? Why do we need education systems? Right? So this all tells us important messages that we can take in our life. So that is the benefit of reading the biographies and autobiographies of great people in this world. We get inspired, though we may not be able to do as they, but there are many points in their life, turning points, especially those we will be able to take benefits from it. So these are the benefits. These are really important points that Lama Tsongkhapa did. Then Lama Tsongkhapa told Manjushri, the story is still continuing, sorry. So then Lama Tsongkhapa told Manjushri that, oh, I've studied a lot, but still I don't really get much understanding beyond that. Now there is Lama Tsongkhapa show a little bit sense of laziness. I have done my part, but it's not happening. Like if I tell you someone to practice patience to get rid of your anger, you may tell me that, oh, I practiced it. Yesterday I practiced it for 5 minutes, but it's not going away. So Lama Tsongkhapa said this to Manjushri at that time. Then Manjushri gave him a task. Oh, that's not enough. You need to do more practice. You need to do more accumulations. So for that purpose, there are a lot of other, what should I say, negative factors within you that are harming or that are disturbing your understanding. So in order to get rid of those negative emotions and its influences, you need to practice these positive influences. That is what we have been discussing with you this morning at your school about the balance. Now I forget, you have a beautiful word for that. This morning, when you have two proper balance, and what was the, can you tell me again?
Remember what you
you have this one, weight, yeah? The problematic behavior and expected behavior, yes. So problematic behavior, so this is when your problematic behavior is more, it weighs down, right? So your expected behavior is here, so you need to balance it in this way. So what happens with us is sometimes, yes,
not balance it, because you want want to get rid of the problematic.
Oh, okay, I got your point. But sometimes what happens is, in her case, it's difficult to get rid of everything. So what I'm trying to say is, in life, sometimes we just have to balance it sometimes, but before getting rid of it, we have to balance it. So if we are able to balance it, at least we will be able to reach a stable level. So then after that, we can think of getting rid of it. So that's what Lama Tsongkhapa was told to do. Manjushri, in some way, in modern educators' way of speaking, Manjushri told Lama Tsongkhapa this: your negative, again I forgot the word, negative balance or whatever is it? No, problematic behavior is more, and expected behavior is less. So in order to have an equal balance or get rid of it, you need to do more accumulations. You need to do more purifications. You need to practice 6 perfections. So those are the guidance given by Manjushri. And Lama Tsongkhapa stayed meditative for almost 4 or 5 years. And during those years, he spent a lot of time doing prostrations, purifications, and sharpening his own intelligence, practicing compassion, and so on and so on. Because that was the reason why I'm telling this, is that was a kind of really life lesson for Lama Tsongkhapa. Because he felt that at that time he is on the top of the world. He felt that he's the greatest scholar in Tibet at that time. But Manjushri completely brought him down. So he felt that though you feel that you know everything, but there's so much more to know in this world. Your understanding of knowledge is sometimes filled with ignorance, biased knowledge. So you need a lot of things to more to know. So it's never like you can reach an ultimate what should I say, a stage where you do not need to study or know anything more. So that's what happened. Then after that, of course, Lama Tsongkhapa realized emptiness. He understood it, and then now to summarize it, his works, if we put it into volumes, we have 18 volumes. 18 volumes of works, scholastic works done by Lama Tsongkhapa, and each volumes were more than 800 to 1,000 pages. And those works were not just fairy stories. Those were not novels, and those were, in today's time, you can call, and those were in some way not like university's thesis, where you are just looking for something different from others. And sometimes in university, you just like to be something different from other. So that's why you write thesis, which may not be really practical sometimes. So, but Lama Tsongkhapa's works were not that. His were really research books, but really practical research books. And even if you read one of them, so there's so much to learn from them. What I'm saying you is that in order to read Lama Tsongkhapa's books, his books, and there is no terms and conditions like you have to be a monk or you have to be follow these traditions. There's nothing like that, because any kind of books that you read in your life or any kind of studies that you do, there is a lot of positive things present in them that may be beneficial or relevant to the work that we are doing, to your own life. So we have to be able to choosy, because when we go to a supermarket, for example, we are so choosy, So we always wanted to buy those things we want, right? If you have 3 pairs, if I wanted to buy a watch, for example, so I will make sure that the store manager shows me this watch, for example, and I will say, okay, do you have fresh copies? This looks like something old, then you want to really have a really new one. And also you wanted to make sure that it's the right one. So humans have that capacity, that potential to choose which is the right one. So in daily life, if you are so choosy about small things like this, I don't know in Sweden, when you go to supermarket marketing, I don't know whether you are so choosy. In India, we go vegetable marketing. We are so choosy while buying tomatoes, Make sure that they're not rotten or too overripe, So each and every tomato, we will weigh it up and see from all sides. And some of my friends go for so far extent. My sister, I have one of my younger sisters, when we buy eggs for our house, sometimes when you buy in trays, one tray is 30 eggs. We buy, because I have a huge family, so we do not go to market often. We go maybe once or 2 weeks. So we buy 3-4 trays together. I do not have that patience to go through each eggs. She has that patience. Or you go and look something else. I wanted to check these eggs. She will pick one egg and look into the light. Okay, this is okay. One by one. She had that much patience. So what I'm trying to say is, in life we are so choosy to pick what is really reasonable. So reading any kind of books is helpful for you, and you can just do not pay attention or get rid of the parts which are not relevant to you or your work or your research, but take those parts which are helpful to you. Those are the resources. They are something like references based on which we can learn a lot from them. So this is what I wanted to share with you. And yes.
I can feel sometimes kind of split, because if I study Dogen,
yeah,
it was a big master in 12th century in Japan.
Yeah.
Or then maybe Gampopa.
Yes.
And maybe another one from the Theravada.
Yes.
I mean, I can maybe touch some kind of essence from the Buddha's way.
Yes.
But they are so different also.
Yes. Yes.
So sometimes it can create a split.
Yes, that's true.
Or difficulties.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Okay.
So
I think sometimes the way when we study different traditions or read different authors' books, sometimes one small mistake that we do is we pay a lot of importance to the author or who wrote these books. That is the case with modern, I think. So if the writer is very popular, if the writer of the book author is very popular, we just close our eyes and buy it nowadays. What was the J.K. Rowling, right? What was the Harry Potter? So when Harry Potter series comes, we never worry about the content, especially the children's or the young people. They just go in and buy it because the author's name was there. So I think that is a mistake. So we are not looking at the contents, but rather than the author. So what I'm trying to say is, whether it's Gamboa or any kind of masters, so we have to pay more attention towards the content of the book, the content of the teachings, and follow that. And always we have to keep in mind that when you read or follow two different traditions or the books, there are always going to be differences. There's always going to be differences, even though they are trying to explain the same thing. So, for example, to get to the Yoshinobu Center here from your airport, Stockholm, you may get 5 or 10 different ways to get here. So, but all of them are right in their own way, but due to their own way of presenting it, we might find that is the method they use may be different. So that is important, I think. So we have to know the differences, and sometimes we should be able to get the main message that is coming out of it, the main fundamental things.
The essence.
The essence, yeah. We have to take the essence and get rid of those things where we are not interested. So then we will be able to follow more and more traditions. I think we will go back to that again. Time is almost over. So this is a brief about Lama Tsongkhapa's life story. I'm sorry, I do not thought to spend a lot of time on it, but anyhow, so that is why I felt. So to summarize it in a very brief way, we have one verse which says that at the initial stage, when he was childhood, Lama Tsongkhapa spent a lot of his years in studies based on listenings, which means he went to seek teachings and from everyone that he could find. And middle of his life, he spent it on contemplative meditations or concentrations, trying to know the meaning. So first, he just went on and got everything. Then he went back to his place and he went through each. Which one makes more sense? Which one was more practical? Which is correct? Then he did his own experiment with that. Finally, whatever the message that he was able to get out of it, he put all those as a part of instructions for his own life to become a better person, to become happy in life. He used all those instructions and the teachings as a kind of medicine to cure his own problems and make himself more happy. So this is important, I think. Otherwise, if we read and learn and study a lot, if we do not practice, it's something like a doctor. You learn medicines, you learn about medicines and what should I say, surgery and everything. But if you never practice, it doesn't serve you any purpose. When you see a patient, if you are not able to prescribe medicine, then your whole study of medicine doesn't serve any purpose. So similarly, whatever we study, whatever we know, so if any amount of that, if we are able to put it into practice, that will be what we call the self-instructions. So this summarizes the Lama Tsongkhapa's life story. So I think the next part I wanted to share is about the importance of learning. So when we set out to study anything, so here this tell us that there is 3 steps. So first is the wisdom or understanding that we get through listenings or through reading. So school times, or for example, now if you want to buy a book from here, bookshelf, and then when you go back, so first you have to get rid of your all kind of distorted views. Or if I touch these books, or there may be many things here that I don't want, I don't like. So without even checking the contents, sometimes we just close the book. So then we are not getting anything. So before going through the book or before listening to someone, we shouldn't be making any early judgments ourselves. You listen to that person, you listen to that master, you listen to that traditions with complete unbiased attitude, with complete open-minded. Let him or let her say whatever saying, but you have the right to make the decision whether that's true or not. No one can snatch that right from you. So read any kind of books there and see how it is helpful to you. Any traditions, any religions, or anything that you read. So that tells us about importance about wisdom, wisdom which you can get out of reading and listening. That is the first part. Then once you gain that wisdom, second is you have to put it into what we call contemplative meditations, which means you have to go through each words and the meanings. And then you have to use your intelligence and discernment capacity to analyze the meaning. Now you have to verify it. It's not like 10 people says this, or this must be okay. It's not like he's a great author, or now this is correct because he's such a great person. Do not go after the author. Do not go after the beauty of the words. Do not go after the beauty of the text or popularity. Just focus on content. And here Lord Buddha and Lama Tsongkhapa says that in order to investigate in this way, there are few techniques. He says, means he says about 4 reliances. Do not rely upon the person or the author, but rely on his work. And also, when it comes to the work, do not rely on beautiful words, but rely on meaning. Sometimes there are great writers who can use beautiful poetry ways. They can write so beautiful. Now look at the songs, they're written so beautifully. But if you really weight the meaning, how much meaning does it carry? Right. So that's why do not go after the beautiful words or the phrases, but go after the meaning. Now, meaning again, there is a literal meaning and there is a hidden meaning, or in some way there is a a provisional meaning and there is a definitive meaning. You may say something literally, but actually you may mean something else. So you have to make a decision between these two. For example, there is a life story, when you read the life story of Lord Buddha. So once someone killed his, I don't want to go detail into the story. So someone killed his father. So it was a prince in India. So actually he didn't kill really, but due to his actions, his father died. So then the prince was in shock. Oh my God, what has I done? I have killed my father. So he was feeling so guilty, and he was feeling so guilty that he's about to commit suicide himself. He was not able to let go of his guiltiness, that feeling. So then someone told him, one of his ministers said, please don't do that. There is a wise teacher, I'll call Buddha Shakyamuni is there, Prince Siddhartha. So please go to him. We will invite him and we will seek his counseling. And why you are in so much hurry in committing suicide? Maybe you can commit suicide after that. There is no harm in just waiting for a few hours. So you can even do that afterwards. So let us first invite Lord Buddha and ask him. He might have better advice for you. And so that may solve the problem. He says, okay, let's call him. So then they invited Lord Buddha. And Lord Buddha, the first knows what actually happened. And the first thing Lord Buddha came and said it, he says, it's okay to kill your parents. He was shocked. Killed. The literal meaning is very direct, but don't go after the literal meaning, but go after the hidden or the definitive meaning. So that's how we have to choose when you go to the world and read different traditions, listen to different masters. So, so this summarizes about how we have to do research, how we have to do investigations in anything that comes to in our work. These are a few very important techniques. And ultimately, when you have completed all those investigations and experiments, and you come to a conclusion that this is it, now this is the really path that I wanted to adopt, then take it as a part of your practice. Take it as a part of your habit. Make it your life with wholeheartedly, with your both hands. So then take it as your own practice and live your life with those principles. So these three steps, these three wisdoms coming out of listening and reading, and wisdoms that comes out of investigative and contemplations, then ultimately wisdoms that we gain out of meditative meditations or your own habit or getting used to those, putting them into practice. The wisdom gaining out of meditation actually means wisdom that you gain out of implementations. So these simple 3 steps are kind of a mantra in some way to lead a very happy life. I think it's dinner time. Okay, we will continue after that. Sorry that we do not have Q&A sessions now. Maybe as soon as we assemble again at 7:40, we will keep 15-20 minutes for any discussions. Okay, thank you. So now I think we will have some discussions. So anything that you want to ask? So we may have a short discussion, then we can continue. So please, if you want to ask anything, yes, please.
It's not really a question, it's just in the beginning, if you could say something about looking for meaning and looking for connection while studying.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
If you could say something about, you said looking for the meaning of it.
Okay.
And I was thinking, and what about looking for, many times when you study, you look for connections.
Yeah.
If you had something to say around that?
Connections and meanings. I didn't get 100% what you meant. Meaning, what I meant is, so when we rely on a text or a book to, when you read it, the words and the phrases are actually the one who express the meaning, the one who tells us the meaning, the words. But the content of those words were meaning. So, and that meaning can be sometimes confusing. Sometimes those we cannot take, what should I say, the literal meaning as it is. We may have to look at it from a different angle to make it sense. Because when a certain kind of teachings or whatever kind of instructions we're given, sometimes depending upon the audience, depending upon to whom it is given, and at what time given, and social context, cultural context. So taking into all this account, so sometimes special instructions were given to that particular person, that particular individuals. So which may not be so relevant to another person, which is from a completely different time and completely different, what should I say, cultural background. So that's what I meant. So I already told you about this story about the prince who killed his father, So Lord Buddha says, and for example, the very foundation of Buddhism, one of the main important foundation of the Buddhism is the concept of no self. So I mean, Atma and the Anatma. So that is one of the main contexts. But even that is actually a kind of demarcation, the line of the boundary, which actually decides whether you are included as a Buddhist or not in reality. So that too, in many of the occasions, if we go through the sutras and the texts, Lord Buddha there are a few instances, few occasions where Lord Buddha even said there is existence of Atma, so which is actually against his own principles. So because one way of teaching that Lord Buddha is very good at it is his skillful means. He considered that as a very important aspect and very important quality that has to be present in each and every one of us, especially in teachers. So now we have one teacher here, she works in the school, then you have another teacher there, I'm sure there are many more. So in everyday life, we are all a kind of teacher. So when you have a family, so you have to guide your children. So when you have a friend, so you have to guide someone. So in some way, we are all kind of teachers in some way, and also student in some way. So skillful means of presenting or skillful finding sometimes to tell an important, to make an important decision and to announce it. Sometimes we may have to wait for some time to make sure whether that particular person is ready to hear that decision or not. Don't we? We do that in our practical life. We wait for some time and make sure whether everything is okay. The conditions are there to tell him that. Sometimes it may be to him whether it's a good or bad. For example, if we want to give a good gift or something, you wait for his birthday, right? You won't disclose it. So that is what we meant by skillful means. So Buddha says that sometimes telling truth in his face immediately will do him more harm than first telling him something which is not really fact. A way to making that opportunity as a path or a way to lead him to the truth later. So that is what he thought a very skillful means. That's why he says that if there is two people, individuals who both accepts the existence of Atma, okay, the concept of self as an independent self, from wholeheartedly, and have complete belief in that. And if Lord Buddha tell them that there is no Atma, then they will just go away. They will just go away, and they won't come back to Buddha for any other instructions. So Lord Buddha said that for that kind of the people, at that moment, it is wiser and more meaningful to tell that Atma does exist. There is an independent self. Then with that, you are finding a way to bring that individual student closer to you. So once that happens, once that student gains a certain kind of respect or confidence in you, then gradually you can disclose the fact through that. So that is what we meant by skillful means. So that's why some of the words of Lord Buddha himself are quite contradictory, what we call. He said something in the beginning, later he said something else. So we can say contradictory. But one of the qualities of a good teacher is that there shouldn't be any contradictory. If you say something now and something different tomorrow, in today's world, we will say that you are not a reliable person. You cannot be trusted. You cannot be meaning of that word, and which we have to look at from a different point of view. Okay, yes, please.
Skillful means something that we can cultivate on its own, or is it a result of something else?
Skillful means is really something that we can cultivate, but in order to be skillful means we need to be really study the thing. That's why, for example, if you have, are you leading any classes here in the center? No, okay. For example, if you're leading some particular classes and if you have 2 students, we usually say that you have to first know your students. Any kind of classes that you're doing, whether it's yoga, meditations, or anything. So when you, in modern days, when you have clients, for example, so you have to know their mindsets, what really they need, their requirement, their desire. So based on that, so when you have all the data related to your students for yourself, then you will know how to do it. For example, some people, I have some friends who usually have a little bit short temper in the morning. Yeah, I do have some friends. I won't tell the names here. Back in India, not here. Okay, just to clarify. So I have some friends who get a little bit short temper in the morning because I don't know, maybe there is some bad dreams, or maybe the breakfast is not ready, or whatever problems. So morning 7 to 9, 10, he's a little bit tense. Then after lunch, he gets better and better. In the evening, he's very cheerful and relaxed and patient. So if you want something from him, I want him to do something, you wait for the time. You never said that in the morning. So you wait till the evening, then you tell that, and you get what you want. So though, whether you tell it in the morning or evening, the content is same. But due to the timing, which suits his mindset, so therefore it benefits you, it benefits him. So that is called skillful means. So most important way of practical skillful means is first understanding the needs of your clients or students. That's why Lord Buddha says that Lord Buddha, before he became enlightened, so when he generated compassions and for all the sentient beings, he feel really pity and compassion towards all the people suffering when he saw sufferings. So we all know the story of Lord Buddha, the conventional historical Buddha, that he was he lives in this celestial palace, which is really so beautiful and have every affluent facilities and luxuries. And his father and his mother thought that my son will be happy with this luxurious life. And he was never allowed to go out of his palace. So he thought that this is my world and it's so beautiful, so many servants. So then one day he sneaked out of the gate, dressed in another person. Then he saw the reality of the world, suffering. He saw old people, he saw a sick person, he saw an old man, and finally he saw a dead person who is already dead, a corpse, people carrying the body of a dead person. He has no idea all at that time what does it mean by a sick person, what does it mean by falling sick. He has no idea about it. And someone said, who is that one? He says, oh, that is someone who already passed away. Lord Buddha said, what do you mean by passed away? What does it mean? Yeah, everybody has to go through that. Once you are born, your destiny is to die. Really? I'm the prince. I do not want to do that. Can I order it? That I do not want. Do I also have to go through that? Yes, of course. There is no exceptions. Then he was shocked. Buddha was shocked. Because his understanding of reality and his perception of reality and what actual reality was, there was a huge gap between that. That's about what we call the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. So Lord Buddha came to know that there are two truths in this world. One is the conventional truth, which we really, a kind of a hi-fi life that we have, the very beautiful world that we expect, that we aspire to have. Then the ultimate or the reality truth, which is hiding behind those old beautiful things, what lies behind that. So he came to know two truths. So then he really feels so compassion. He generates compassion towards all people. But then when he goes to help them, he's handicapped. For example, someone came to him, if someone came to him with medical needs, he's not able to help them because he don't know how to treat them. Someone came to him with another questions about his problems, mental problems, he's not able to help them because he do not understand their needs. So Lord Buddha thought that in order to be maximum benefit to other, I have to first become enlightened. I have to first completely understand the other's mental dispositions, what they really need, what is really the root of the problems that happens to them. So maybe I'm not able to go after each individual people's problems or happiness, but there must be some common. Maybe we can create some kind of groups. So there must be some common causes for those problems. So if I'm able to list out those things, then I may be able to find the solutions. So that's how he started to practice. He started to learn. He went into the path of so many of these graduated paths, and ultimately he became omniscient. So that just tells us that it is important to know as much as possible other people's mental dispositions, their way of living, their needs. So then if you benefit them in the right way, that will be skillful means. Okay, any other questions? Maybe one more if anyone has, or else we shall move. Yes, please.
Yeah, maybe relates a little to what we talked about yesterday.
Okay.
Balance between doing good for yourself
Okay.
and doing good for other people.
Okay.
Or can you do it? Can you do good for other people while you're not being good to yourself? Or should you wait until you have reached a certain level for yourself until you choose to help other people?
I think that whatever kind of altruistic acts or benefiting acts that we do for others, we have to find a beginning from where you want to start. So it has always, you have to start from yourself. There is no other way to start from anywhere else. So it has to start from yourself. When we speak about compassion for all people, you are included in that always. So that is one important point that we have to remember. you are never ignored or you are never neglected, but you are one of the most important of all of those. So I feel that we should never wait, but there is no way that we can benefit someone else without generating a peace of mind for yourself. Or if that brings suffering to you, if that makes yourself feel worse, then that is a wrong way of doing benefit for other people. So that is not the right way. So therefore, yesterday we were also discussing about the importance of self-compassion. So one of the main causes for causes or reasons for us to really is actually feeling of low self-esteem, feeling discouraged. Sometimes we are today's way of living and the loneliness and all those things make us really low self-esteem. Maybe I'm who in this world? There are so many people in this world. Who am I to make a difference? For example, think about the climate changes nowadays. It's something out of control in some way. So who are we to make a difference? Yeah, just about an individual's contribution, how does it going to affect to the world? Sometimes we forget that 100 is actually composition of many ones. We forget that. In Tibetan saying, we have a saying that just one piece of broom, what do you call it in English? To clean? Broom, yeah. Just one piece of straw will not be able to clean. You need a collector of that to clean. And all of those, if we take out each one, it's not something like this. It cannot be someone like a collective broom. So similarly, as the group or the organizations or anything becomes important, every individual of that group is as important as that. So therefore, always we have to feel in that way that I am one of the most important person in this world if I'm going to make a difference to the world. Because I can, whatever I do contributes towards that whatever wish or aspirations that we have, be it climate change, be it compassions, be it educations or whatever. So that is how we have to get rid of our low self-esteem. So when you do that, you feel energized, you feel that you feel encouraged, you feel reasons that I will be so benefits. His Holiness usually have this saying, maybe you all remember, that if you feel that you are too small to make a difference, and you must spend one whole night with mosquitoes. I think that's very practical. Do you have mosquitoes in Sweden? Yes. Oh, okay. Okay, then you are like us. Not much difference. So I really cannot spend a night with mosquitoes. It's so terrible. Sorry?
We don't have dangerous ones.
How do you know? They do not have tags, I'm the dangerous one, I am the safe one. But I'm just kidding. Whatever is it, I mean, it's not about the dangerous, but when the mosquitoes come and really disturb your sleep, so you know that it's so difficult. So that actually tells us that as an individual, we have all the potentials to make this difference in the world, to difference to other. I mean, sometimes when you think about the world, it is too big. When you think about all sentient beings, it's too large. So I usually tell my friends that don't think about all these stupid things first, about all sentient beings or whatever, sometimes it is a part of your prayers, but not really practical in some way. Let's start with something small. Let's start with, for example, yourself. You have to start from somewhere. First, you practice compassion towards yourself. First, you started to love yourself. First, you started to gain confidence towards yourself. Find reasons why it is important for you to lead a good life. Find reasons for yourself how a presence of you will make difference in this world. Then gradually increase it to your families, your friends, then gradually to your vary from one person to another. That is a fact that we have in front. So if even in schools, if we have different levels of students, So how you are going to teach the same material to a class where you have so many different levels of intelligence? So that is a challenge for all of us. So what we did in some countries is really strange, because I've also been a part of that for many, many years, is that what you do is looking at your grades, all A grade students are made one class, B grade another, and C grade another. So you feel that you have solved the problems. So A grades are bright students, they go like this, oh, we are the bright students, B grades a little bit lower, or we are just C grades, they, by the system, you have created divisions within the students. You have already created huge discriminations and create an opportunity for them to feel low self-esteem. The C grades generally feel low self-esteem. And so that is a very wrong way of looking at the intelligence level of your students. But this is even done nowadays in many schools all over the world, even now. So in that cases, you have to find some skillful means to teach, lead those students who are not so confident to the same level of understanding that you want to bring. So that's why Lord Buddha says that there are two ways when it comes to the teaching of Buddhism. He says that those who are lesser intelligent has more, more chances of following what you say without questioning you. If you tell something, and there is greater chances that they will follow you without questioning you, because they accept your words, because you are their teacher. And Buddha says that the intelligent ones, since they have this capacity to ask questions and make a discriminating awareness, but due to their capacity, they won't go through what you say. They will check, and difficult to understand. So easy to understand topics, you teach them first, because they won't ask questions to you. But the intelligent ones, if you just tell them about refuge as the most important, they will, why? Why should I go for refuge to Buddha? He is okay, he is a great man, but why should I go refuge to him? You will have that feeling. So then Buddha says, first let them understand what is true truths, which is the reality, and then let them understand what is four truths. So then they will be really inspired by your teachings. Oh, really, that's something, that really is something which is helpful, that really is something which makes sense. So then they will start to come after you. So then gradually, but at the end, you tell them about going for refuge. So it's a totally different way. That's what Buddha says, a practical one. Okay, anyone else? Any more questions? Or shall we continue?
What does it mean? Beings are numberless.
Sorry?
I vow to save them all.
Yes.
What does it mean?
Can you repeat?
Beings are numberless.
Yeah.
I vow to save them all.
Okay.
Delusion are inexhaustible.
Yeah.
And so on and so on.
Yes. Yes.
A task, an impossible task.
Yeah.
And then
yes.
we try to be completely dedicated to this impossible task.
Yes. I think that different individuals have different mental capacities when it comes to the level of the compassion. For example, now we will think about how compassionate you can be. If we are going to do a test, for example, so test with 10 students, so we can nowadays measure their level of compassionateness. So no matter, there is a presence of certain level of compassionate qualities in all the students. That is fact. We will never find a student who is 0 when it comes to the compassion ratings. So at least we will find 1 or 0 point something, okay? So that tells us that compassionate qualities are something innate qualities that we have, but it has been polluted by a lot of other things, and we are not letting it grow. As yesterday we discussed, there are a lot of weeds and other grasses, unwanted grasses, which is blocking from your lotus flower to bloom. So it's something like that. So some people have greater sense of compassionate. Their compassionates are stronger. Some can love only their families, but some can love a little bit more. The compassionate can cover maybe more than your families, and some even has a lot of compassionate towards animals, dogs, cats, even a lot. Mosquitoes, anyone. So we can sense that the level of compassion differs from one person to another. Okay, so that's why when we say numberless, sentient beings are numberless. Of course, humans are numberless. But how you are going to benefit each and every one of them, it is actually, you can, though it may be impossible tasks. Okay, just think about the climate change. The climate activists and all these really environmentalists, I'm not talking about the politicians who claim to be environmentalists, they're the fake ones. But the real environmentalists who really have this strong desire, wish to save the planet. It's such a difficult task, a responsibility, which cannot happen if there is no support and contribution from each and everyone in this world. But their sense of caring, their sense of that willing or wish can be very strong. That cannot be stopped by anyone. So the compassion quality is such thing that once you train and train, you can actually reach such a level that you will get really a very strong sense of willing to benefit each and every people in this world, make them free from suffering, though it is really a very difficult task. And as you say, delusions are limited, inexhaustible. So how you're going to get rid of them? One, if you cut the root, then everything will die down. So similarly, when it comes to delusions, you don't worry about, Lord Buddha says, you don't worry about all the different kind of delusions and the problems and the emotions that we have. They are all arising from one common cause, which is ignorance, that not knowing the reality present within us. So if we are able to cut that ignorance through our studies and practice, then all the others, which are actually a kind of effects of that ignorance which is present within us, they will all die by themselves. So there is a possibility, though the delusions are inexhaustible, but if you really find the source, then you can stop it. Now the problem in this world, and most of us, I mean we can say all of us, is that we know the flood is coming. We have seen the flood is coming and it's flooding our house. But what we are trying to do is we are only trying to save, putting some walls here, putting some wood here, trying to stop the water from coming here and here. But we are never looking for the origin, where it is coming. So that's why it's temporary. Whatever blockage, whatever dams you build, whatever means to stop the water from at this moment, it's all temporary. Because we haven't looked at the origin. But if you go a little bit further and find the source where the tape is open, if you close the tape, all this will stop immediately. So this is similar to that.
Can we say that it's the same story,
yeah.
but now it's with water?
Yeah.
If we think in the Lotus Sutra,
yeah.
the father trying to save his children,
yes.
and telling them the house is burning,
okay.
and you have carts outside
yes.
with beautiful horses, and they are waiting for you. But there is no beautiful horse.
Okay.
He's just trying to
make you run away from the house.
From the house.
Okay.
And sometimes something may be wrong in my mind, think like this is a kind of manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe it's not, I don't know. We have this inside us, even with the best intention. We try in different ways to
Yeah, I think that's all what we call methods or means, So to reach a common goal, so we may be exploring different ways to do it. I think, and there is no harm with that. Okay, we will.
I hear you. Thank you.
Sure. We will touch your point. So I think that's about our discussion. So maybe we will go try to. We've been spending almost 3 hours in storytelling. So, so next part I wanted to tell a little bit about is in the next 30 minutes that we have. So we have already discussed a bit about Lama Tsongkhapa's life story and all the small things related to it. So now, so to summarize, when we summarize all of these things, so whatever we do in life, so one important thing that we have to remember is the purpose why we are doing that. So, for example, if you're a student, if you're a teacher, and this is something that I've been thinking for some time, because in life, sometimes our life is really very robotic. I call it robotic lifestyle, in the sense that you came to this world, you were born to your parents, then they send you to school, and school teaches you some skillful means. Then after that, you do a job, and then you are just stuck there, and your life ends. So then, in some way, I'm sorry, but I've been feeling this for some time, that is very robotic lifestyle. That is something even robots can do, I think. Maybe they can do, maybe we don't need to send them to schools and spend a lot of money and energy. So where does the difference coming? So we have to find a difference. So if we are not able to do something a little bit more than what robots are doing, then maybe in future we may not get a place to stay here. The robots will drive us all away. They will make the earth their place, and maybe we have to go to another planet. So this comes to one common thing is that, for example, when you do a study or education or a job, actually we are looking for, when I ask them why you're studying, they say, okay, without study you won't get a job. Okay, you get a job. Then why you are looking for a job? They say, some says, after you get a job, you feel settled, then you will get economic stabilities. Okay, then what happens after that? After that, okay, it just continues for the rest of the life. Then where does the happiness comes then? So ultimately, it all comes down to the very common principle that we all have is about happiness, about whether we speak it loud, whether we hide it, whether it's the children, whether it's the elderly people, whether it's a monk like me, or anyone's, even the president or Donald Trump or anyone, we're all looking for some kind of happiness in this life. So that's why happiness, I think happiness is accepted, the common goal of all the sentient beings in this world. So in search of that, we take different approaches in our life. We are looking at different ways to get to that ultimate approach. And sometimes to reach that goal, it takes a lot of time, and almost you spend whole your life trying to reach that goal, and you're not able to reach it. So some make the purpose, some take the purpose as a way of life, as your path, and as you go on life, you use that techniques and you become happy. So happiness comes with you, along you, as you go on. I think that is a more practical way, it's a more benefiting way, so that you are happy at the same time, what you're doing, you're feeling contented. So that is the very purpose of life. So in this world, now if we look at so many different traditions, so many different religions that we have, and as we discussed yesterday, of course, we cannot really ignore the presence of religions and their contribution towards humanity and humans' happiness. So they have really played a lot. There are mistakes that are done by those religious traditions, but the contribution that they have done is enormous, and we cannot really forget about that. So how does it happen is there's one common three fundamental questions that every individuals and religions are trying to get answer from. The first is, what is self? isn't it? Self is so important for all of us. Why you want to be happy, why I want to be happy and not him. So whatever we do, ultimately it comes upon the very I. And as we were just discussing, responding to your questions about self-compassion, why we have to be self-compassionate before we feel compassion towards other, why we should love yourself before you love other, why you should care for yourself before you start in care for other. So self or the I becomes the most important in that way. So if you do not recognize what is self, if you are distorted about the reality of the self, then you have the root of your well-being is actually based on distorted information. So nothing can go right from there. So that's why all these traditions are looking at that answer. What is self? Is self the person? Self, I, person, whatever we say is the same thing. So is self a particle? Is self this body? Or is self something else? So all these traditions have the first questions. Second thing is, if self is something, and if self does exist, then where does it come from? Does it come from sky, or does it grow like a tree? So where does it come from? That is another question that we have to face. Then, okay, it comes from something. Then where does it go? What is the beginning of self? What is the end of self? And what is the nature of self? These are the three most fundamental questions, principal questions that we all have to find some answers. So when we are able to find some answers, then we are able to find the reality of life. So that's why different traditions in this world, if we look at the different traditions, they all vary, they all differ when it comes to the answers of this. So that's why different religions came into this world. The theistic religions and faiths, they speak about existence of self as an independent soul, which not independent soul. So this part of religions came into the theistic part of traditions. Then there is non-theistic religions such as Buddhism, and also part of, we can say, Jainism. And even within Hinduism, there is some ancient Indian schools such as Sankhya traditions, where they speak about no self concept, no self philosophy. So all religions differ from this basic, trying to find answer to these three common things, these three common queries. So then let us for a moment try to locate ourselves. What is self? Why self is so important? So one way to find self is, some says our body is the self. So now let us think of, every one of you here can really think of yourself and try to find yourself. And if you can give me an answer, I will be so happy. Maybe we were able to find some self today. Okay, so as we said before in discussions, I would like to hear from you. So some traditions, even in Buddhism, says that self, all the parts of our body are actually self. Because when you go out, for example, now in Sweden, when it becomes cold, when you go out, you feel cold. You as a person or a self feel cold. Because actually the one who really feels cold is your body, not you. Do you agree with me? It's our body that feels cold or that feels warm. But when your body feels cold or warm, we are able to say that I'm feeling cold or warm. So then what is the connection between these two? They say that the body itself is the self. There is no self other than our body. Okay, we will keep that for a moment. So the next question comes. I hope I'm not confusing you. So I want your attention on this this topic because we will try to go a little bit deeper. So next is, if your body is the self, if your body is you, whatever your name is, for example, then is it the whole body, collective of the whole body, or every individual bodies? So that is another question. We all agree that there is only one self. In every individual, we have only one self, right? For example, Anila, you have only one self. Because when you make, how can I say, when you count people, how many people are here today, so you will count as one and not two. So if you have two self, then we may have to count two Anilas. So, but there's only one Anila because there is only one self. But body parts, we have many. We have two hands, we have two legs, we have tens or 15s of body parts. So that tells us that not all the body parts are not self. So we have to get rid of that answer. So that was wrong. But now if the whole body is the self, then what happens when the body, what happens when we die? Or in another way, when you are born, for example, if you believe that when first time when our mother becomes pregnant, I hope I'm not very good in all these things, but maybe I hope I'm right. So when our mother becomes pregnant, at that moment, whether you are present or not. So we can think whether you're present or not at mommy's, our mother's stomach or whatever stomach you call it. Womb, sorry, not stomach. Stomach is the place where food stays, right? Okay. So whether we are present in mother's womb from the first day, how long does it take for from the day of conceive to the delivery? I think it's 9 months, 9 months and 10 days something, right? Generally it's 9 months at least. So now let's say the first day of conceived. So doctors say that at that time your mother is pregnant. That means that your mother carries a baby. It is not just a flesh. There is a being there, right? There is a human there. So that is, from that moment, the self has already started. Am I right? Okay. So from at that, if your body is the self, does at that time really that self has any body or not? That is the question. And at that moment, the body is so tiny. But now your body is so big. So as the body develops and grows bigger and bigger, does self also become bigger and bigger? So I mean, these are some of the ways we can investigate our own self and try to see whether all these things make sense or not. Maybe I'm confusing you, but this ultimately tells us that our body is also not the self. That is one thing. Second thing is what happens when you die? For example, what happens when you die? Okay, so as soon as you are dead, then your self is also dead because the body is dead, right? So when your body dies, you also dies? Yes. Then when your body dies, the continuity of your body exhausted, it's over. So then the continuity of the self is also over or not? This is the questions. Now if we look at the scientific research and also evidence that we have today, we have this topic called Tukdam going on. Tukdam, I wanted to tell you, is now there is a group of Russian scientists from Russia, Moscow. They are doing some research about this Tukdam, and also from America, they are doing this research. This is very important research. I want you all to pay attention, and if you read these research papers, it will be very benefit for you. So what happens is when person is clinically die, usually what happens is clinically, medically, they are declared as dead. So your body starts to decompose in 1 or 2 days. Am I right? Sorry? Decomposed? Yeah. But we have instances where the body remains fresh as now for 20 days, some 15 days. So clinically, he or she is declared dead, but some yogis are still able to preserve their body. So that just tells us that what we call the clinical death is actually not really the ultimate definition of death. There is something more behind that. That also tells us that there is something different self, which is not just our human body. Something different from human body. This all tells us. Okay, these are some of my ideas that I wanted to tell you. I'm not making any conclusions whether self is that or that. So just presented some of my ideas so we all can think about it, and you can share your ideas, what you think yourself is. So then we can discuss about it. But many times you see, when you say you're Swedish, I'm Tibetan, and she is Anila. So the self within you is Swedish. You have a Swedish self. I have a Tibetan self. It's sometimes a bit strange. So we give definition or color to ourselves depending upon our body, right? So there is a very strong connection between our body and ourself. That is definitely true. So self cannot be something which is completely different from your body, but it has very strong relationship with your body. If we are looking for self, we have to look self in relationship to our body. That's why if you look at the self, finding self, we have this movie called Finding Nemo or something similar to that. If you are trying to find yourself in this way, sometimes you will feel that the self that you really feel so comfortable and so strong here, which really makes you angry and which really makes you so egoistic. So sometimes that all these things are baseless. Self is not that strong. It really doesn't exist as we presumed. So it's all our exaggerations meant. So in that way, it will help you to calm down. It will make you less stressful. So that is really related, I think. So now, whether does it have a beginning or not, I think we touched the topic yesterday, and does it have an end or not? So we did touch that yesterday. We have some discussion about that. I think it's also important. For example, yesterday, some examples that you all brought about is that sometimes we have a child which is completely different from their parents, whether it is in terms of their habit or anything, even DNA tests, I don't know. So how do we explain those things? Then sometimes we have recollections, memories, very strong memories when they are very young kids, something which is not possible for young children. We have many evidences nowadays. So how do we explain those things? Second thing. Now, third thing is, how about habits? So usually when we say that if you do not do something for a long time, we cannot call it habits. Am I right? So habit is something when you keep on doing something for a long time, it becomes habit. So at the time of birth, how does this is sometimes I don't think it does make some sense, but I will present you anyway. It comes from one of the texts that how come a young baby, a young calf, for example, as soon as that calf is born, she is able to know that the mother cow is her mother. And how can we define this relationship? A young baby which is born, and immediately he or she is able to define that is my mother or my father without even anyone explaining to that baby. So how do we explain that relationships? Biological reasons? I don't know. And if that is biological reasons, I have this doubt. Can you please, if anyone of you have this know about through research about surrogated, what do you call it? Surrogated mothers? Surrogated, that's the right word? Yeah. So for example, surrogated mothers, when a child which is born through a surrogated mother, what about that child, whether to whom that child immediately calls mother, the one that give birth to you or the actual mother who belongs to, what do you call that? Yeah, egg, you know. So that child has two mothers, right? So how about whether the child, the baby gets more, what should I say, recognize the mom, the one who has given the egg or the one who has delivered the baby? So this is something that we have to find out. I don't know exactly how it happens. So this, if you look at many of these things, sometimes it makes more sense that there is a life beyond that. So if it is possible to have a life beyond that, then it explains a lot of things very clearly. So these are just some of the things that I thought we will do today. I think we've been talking enough for today. It's almost 3 hours now. So I wanted to say thank you for this wonderful day with you to celebrate the 600 years Lama Tsongkhapa's anniversary. And really, it was very auspicious for me. And I hope that in these 2 or 3 hours, so whatever we discuss may be of some benefits to all of you. So that is my wish. And so finally, we have a small dedication here. So Martin La director told me that Anne Schmitz, can you help me pronounce this one?
Schmitz.
Yeah, Anne Schmitz passed away day before yesterday. And so it is really so sad. So so maybe all come together for a moment to pray for her, and that maybe all pray that whatever merits that we have accumulated through this listening and discussing about the teachings of the Lord Buddha and Lama Tsongkhapa, whatever merits or that we have accumulated, that may be dedicated for her, that may her have peace. And if she believes in Buddhist ideologies, then may she, according to Buddhists, may she be able to get a good human rebirth in the next rebirth, and may she have all the happiness. And so please spend a few moments praying for her in silence. Okay, thank you. So if you have any questions, I will take 1 or 2, and then I will end the session. And we will continue tomorrow. Yes, please.
Sorry, just clarification. What was the term for the research done by the Russians?
Tukdam is called clear light meditation. It's actually called Tukdam. Tukdam means what happens is when someone is clinically declared as dead, so even after that, the person stays in the meditative state for many days. We have one master who stays in for 21 days, and there's another for 16 days. Now in Dharamsala, His Holiness have requested, and there is scientific machines and also tools to measure and test what goes in the brain activities when someone is in deep state of meditative state, even after he passed away, clinically passed away. So they are looking at that, what really happens goes in the brain activities. So when someone already passed away, what is the difference between the normal people who passed away and their body starts decomposing? And here we have another case who is also dead, but still the body is able to remain fresh for weeks. So how is it happening? So there is a research going on.
I started to say something about secular Buddhism.
Yes.
Secular Buddhism. Can you
Secular, I think we have, yesterday we spent a few hours on it.
Okay.
And so maybe tomorrow, when we have
Maybe
more time.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
If I don't pass away this night. It's fully possible.
Yeah, possible for all of us.
I'm ready.
Okay. 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 Thank you so much then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
We would like to take a picture with Rinpoche because tomorrow.